Hello there. Welcome to Dreamland Science, a place for curious minds to gather, relax, and learn. If you enjoy this journey tonight, perhaps you might consider subscribing. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, you do not need to do anything at all. Just settle in. Tonight, we explore something extraordinary. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of something far more profound. The physics of silence. Perhaps you have noticed how the quiet of night feels different than the quiet of day. How certain silences feel full, while others feel empty. Science has discovered that silence is never truly empty. In the vacuum of space, energy hums at the quantum level. In the emptiness between your atoms, forces dance invisibly. In the stillness of this moment, the echo of the Big Bang still whispers through the cosmos. You do not need to remember any of this. You do not need to understand it. You do not need to stay awake. Just let these gentle facts drift past you, like stars through the window of a train at night. Perhaps you will fall asleep. That would be perfectly wonderful. Perhaps some facts will stay with you, like seeds planted in quiet soil. Either way, you are safe here. Let your shoulders drop a little. Let your jaw soften. Let your breath find its own rhythm. And let us begin. Here are 100 relaxing facts about the physics of silence, where science reveals that nothing is actually the most alive thing in the universe. The vacuum of space is not truly empty. It hums with zero-point energy. When physicists first explored what happens when you remove absolutely everything from a region of space, they expected to find nothing at all. Instead, they discovered something remarkable. Even in the most perfect vacuum, stripped of every atom and every particle of light, energy remains. This is called zero-point energy, the lowest possible energy that quantum mechanics allows. Researchers at institutions around the world have measured this energy. It is not a theory or a guess. It is as real as the warmth of sunlight on your skin. Imagine an ocean that can never be completely still, even when there are no boats, no wind, no fish swimming beneath the surface. Tiny ripples still move across the water. That is what the quantum vacuum is like. A sea of gentle vibrations that can never quite settle into perfect stillness. Perhaps you might notice your own breath settling into a gentle rhythm, like those quiet ripples in the fabric of space itself. The silence around you tonight is not empty. It never has been. It hums with the same energy that fills the space between distant galaxies. Even at absolute zero, particles gently vibrate. Stillness is impossible. Absolute zero is the coldest temperature that can exist, -273.15 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, classical physics predicted that all motion would stop completely. But when scientists actually approached this temperature in laboratories, they found something unexpected. Particles kept moving. Not much, just a tiny, gentle trembling. But they could not be made completely still. Werner Heisenberg explained why in 1927. His uncertainty principle revealed that the universe does not allow perfect stillness. If a particle stopped moving entirely, we would know both its exact position and its exact momentum. And nature does not permit that level of certainty. Think of it like a leaf floating on water. Even on the calmest day, even when the air feels perfectly still, The leaf trembles slightly. Something in the nature of existence keeps it gently moving. Perhaps your hands might soften as you rest them wherever they are, even in your stillness. Your cells are gently humming with life, following the same rules that govern particles at the edge of absolute zero. The universe itself cannot achieve perfect stillness, and perhaps that is a comfort. Even rest contains a kind of gentle aliveness. Virtual particles appear and vanish in silence, like bubbles in champagne. In the quantum vacuum, something strange and beautiful happens constantly. Pairs of particles pop into existence from nothing, exist for the briefest moment, and then annihilate each other and vanish again. These are called virtual particles. They appear everywhere, all the time, throughout all of space. Right now, in the air around you, in the space between your fingers. Particles are flickering in and out of existence billions of times every second. Physicists at CERN and laboratories around the world have confirmed their existence through careful experiments. Virtual particles leave subtle traces, like footprints in fresh snow that melt almost as quickly as they form. Imagine champagne in a glass. Tiny bubbles form at the bottom, rise through the golden liquid, and pop at the surface. The vacuum of space is like that champagne, constantly fizzing with particles that appear and disappear in an endless, silent dance. Perhaps you might let your thoughts do the same thing, rising up, existing for a moment, and then gently dissolving back into quiet. You do not need to hold on to them. The universe is constantly creating and releasing. Perhaps tonight, you can do the same. The Casimir effect proves empty space has power. Two plates are pushed together by nothing. In 1948, a Dutch physicist named Hendrik Casimir made a prediction that seemed impossible. He said that if you placed two metal plates very close together in a perfect vacuum, with nothing between them, they would be pushed toward each other. Not by air pressure, not by magnetism, not by any force that classical physics could explain. They would be pushed together by the energy of empty space itself. Decades later, scientists confirmed he was right. The Casimir effect is real. Two plates placed close together in a vacuum experience a measurable force pushing them together. This happens because the quantum vacuum contains more energy outside the plates than between them. The limited space between the plates restricts which virtual particles can exist there. The imbalance creates pressure. Imagine two ships floating close together in calm water. The waves between them are smaller than the waves outside, and this difference gently pushes the ships toward each other. Perhaps you might notice the gentle pressure of whatever is supporting you right now. The bed, the chair, the floor. Forces you cannot see are holding you, just as invisible forces hold those metal plates in laboratory vacuums. Empty space is not passive. It acts upon the world, and right now, it is gently holding everything in place, including you. A coffee cup of vacuum energy could theoretically boil all of Earth's oceans. The energy contained in the quantum vacuum is almost incomprehensibly vast. Some physicists have calculated that a single cubic centimeter of empty space, about the size of a sugar cube, contains more energy than all the matter in the observable universe. If we could somehow harness the zero-point energy in just one coffee cup of vacuum, the energy released would be enough to boil every ocean on Earth many times over. Of course, we cannot access this energy. It is locked into the fabric of space itself, part of the background hum of existence. But knowing it is there changes how we understand emptiness. Imagine a calm lake. The surface looks still and peaceful, but beneath that surface, currents flow, fish swim, and the entire ecosystem pulses with hidden life. The vacuum is like that lake, serene on the surface, but filled with unimaginable power beneath. Perhaps your own stillness contains more than it appears. Perhaps in your quiet moments, energy gathers and renews itself, even when nothing seems to be happening. The universe stores its greatest power in its quietest places. Tonight, you rest in one of those places. Quantum fluctuations in the early universe seeded every galaxy we see. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was unimaginably small, hot, and dense. In those first moments after the Big Bang, the quantum vacuum was not just background noise. It shaped the future of everything. Tiny fluctuations in the quantum field, random variations in the energy of empty space, became stretched across the cosmos as the universe expanded. These fluctuations became slightly denser regions of matter. Over billions of years, gravity pulled those denser regions together. They became galaxies. Every spiral arm of the Milky Way, every cluster of stars, every planet, including Earth, exists because of quantum ripples in the silence of the early universe. Imagine dropping a pebble into still water and watching the ripples spread outward. Now imagine those ripples freezing in place and becoming mountains, valleys, and continents. That is what happened to the quantum fluctuations of the early cosmos. Perhaps you might feel the weight of your body settling deeper into rest. You are made of matter that was shaped by ancient silence. The quiet that surrounds you now is related to the quiet that built the galaxies. You are not separate from that cosmic story. You are part of its ongoing unfolding. Heisenberg discovered uncertainty is woven into reality itself. In 1927, Werner Heisenberg, a young German physicist, discovered something that changed our understanding of the universe forever. He found that certainty has limits. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle states that you cannot know both the exact position and the exact momentum of a particle at the same time. The more precisely you measure one, the less precisely you can know the other. This is not a limitation of our instruments. It is not a problem to be solved with better technology. It is a fundamental feature of reality itself. The universe is built on a foundation of gentle uncertainty. Imagine trying to photograph a hummingbird's wings. If you use a fast shutter speed to freeze the position clearly, you lose the sense of motion. If you use a slow shutter speed to capture the blur of movement, you lose the precise position. Reality itself works this way at the quantum level. Perhaps there is comfort in knowing that even the universe does not demand perfect precision. Even nature allows for softness, for blur, for gentle approximation. You do not need to know exactly where you are going. You do not need to understand everything perfectly. Uncertainty is woven into the fabric of existence, and it has been since the beginning. The more precisely you know where a particle is, the less you know where it is going. This consequence of Heisenberg's discovery feels almost poetic. When you pin down the present with perfect clarity, the future becomes a blur. When you try to see exactly what is happening now, you lose sight of what comes next. Physicists have tested this countless times in laboratories around the world. It always holds true. Measure a particle's position with extreme precision, and its momentum becomes fundamentally uncertain. Measure its momentum perfectly, and its position becomes a spread of probabilities. The universe seems to be telling us something. Perhaps perfect knowledge of the present moment is not the goal. Perhaps there is wisdom in allowing some things to remain undefined, unresolved, open. Imagine holding sand in your hands. If you squeeze tightly to keep every grain in place, the sand escapes between your fingers. If you hold your hands open and relaxed, the sand rests peacefully. Perhaps your thoughts might rest peacefully too. You do not need to pin them down. You do not need to know exactly where each one is going. Let them drift, like particles in quantum space, following their own gentle probabilities. The future is always a little blurry. That is not a flaw. That is how reality works. Nothing in physics is actually something vibrating at its quietest. When physicists talk about the vacuum, about empty space, about nothing, they are not describing an absence. They are describing the lowest possible state of activity, the quietest the universe can be. But quiet is not the same as silent. Quiet is not the same as empty. The quantum vacuum is like a musical instrument at rest. Even when no one is playing it, the strings have a fundamental tension. They are ready to vibrate. They contain potential. A violin sitting in its case is not nothing. It is a violin waiting. Scientists call this ground state energy. It is the energy that remains when you have removed everything that can be removed. It is the hum beneath all things, the baseline vibration of existence. Imagine a sleeping forest at night. No animals moving, no wind blowing, no rain falling. But the trees are still alive. The soil is still active. Life continues in the silence. Perhaps you might notice the quiet aliveness in your own body, your heart beating, your breath moving, your cells renewing themselves. You are never truly still. You are at rest, which is different. Nothing is something at its quietest. And you, at rest, are something beautiful. The quantum vacuum has been called the most real thing there is. Some physicists believe that the quantum vacuum, this sea of potential and gentle vibration, is more fundamental than matter itself. Matter comes and goes. Particles are created and destroyed, but the vacuum endures. John Wheeler, one of the great physicists of the 20th century, called it the quantum foam, a bubbling sea of possibility from which everything emerges and to which everything returns. If this view is correct, then the silence around you is not a backdrop for reality. It is reality. Matter is just a temporary pattern in the eternal quiet, like a wave that rises from the ocean and eventually settles back into it. Imagine a dream. In the dream, cities rise, people move, stories unfold. But the dreamer is more real than the dream. The dream is made of the dreamer's mind. Perhaps the vacuum is like that dreamer, and perhaps all the things we see, all the matter we touch, all the light we perceive, are patterns in that deeper quiet. Perhaps you might let that idea settle softly. Like snow falling on a windless night, you are resting in the most real thing there is. At the Planck scale, space itself becomes grainy and uncertain. If you could shrink down to unimaginably small sizes, smaller than atoms, smaller than protons, smaller than quarks, you would eventually reach the Planck scale. This is the smallest meaningful length in physics, about 10 to the minus 35 meters. At this scale, the smooth fabric of space that we experience breaks down. Space itself becomes grainy, uncertain, fluctuating. The concepts of here and there begin to lose their meaning. Physicists believe that at the Planck scale, space and time are woven together in ways we cannot yet fully understand. It is the frontier where our current physics reaches its limits. Imagine zooming in on a photograph until you can see the individual pixels. At that point, the smooth image dissolves into tiny squares. Space may be similar, smooth at our scale, but pixelated at the deepest level. Perhaps you might let your awareness soften, like an image slightly out of focus. You do not need to see every detail clearly. You do not need to understand the smallest scales of existence. It is enough to rest here. At the comfortable scale of beds and blankets and gentle breathing, the universe keeps some mysteries hidden, even from itself. Time may not exist at the quantum level, only gentle relationships between moments. Some physicists believe that at the deepest level of reality, time as we know it does not exist. There is no ticking clock, no before and after. There are only relationships between events. The Wheeler-DeWitt equation, a fundamental equation in quantum gravity, does not contain time as a variable. It describes a universe that simply is, without past or future. This does not mean that time is an illusion in our everyday experience, but it suggests that time emerges from something timeless, like the way wetness emerges from water molecules that are not themselves wet. Imagine a photograph album. Each photograph is a moment, frozen and still. The pages do not move on their own, but when you flip through them, a story unfolds. Perhaps time is like that flipping, something we create as we move through the timeless pages of existence. Perhaps tonight, you might release your grip on time. You do not need to count the minutes until sleep comes. You do not need to worry about tomorrow. This moment is complete in itself. At the deepest level, perhaps all moments are now, and you are resting in all of them. Entangled particles communicate instantly across the universe, in perfect silence. Quantum entanglement is one of the strangest phenomena in physics. When two particles become entangled, they form a connection that transcends space, no matter how far apart they are. Measuring one particle instantly affects the other. Albert Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He was troubled by it, but countless experiments have confirmed it is real. Particles separated by miles, by countries, by continents, remain connected in ways that seem to ignore the speed of light. The connection carries no sound, no signal, no energy that we can detect traveling between them. It is as if the two particles are secretly one particle, pretending to be in two places. Imagine twins who always know what the other is feeling, no matter how far apart they are. Not through phone calls or messages, but through some deeper bond that needs no medium to travel through. Perhaps you might feel a connection to someone you love, even if they are far away tonight. Perhaps that connection is more real than the distance. Perhaps silence carries bonds that noise cannot. The universe is more connected than it appears. And so, perhaps, are you. The wave function holds all possibilities until the universe chooses one. In quantum mechanics, a particle does not have a definite state until it is measured. Before measurement, it exists in a superposition, a blend of all possible states at once. This blend is described by something called the wave function. The wave function is like a cloud of probability. The particle might be here, or there, or somewhere else. It might be spinning this way or that way. All possibilities coexist, overlapping, until observation collapses them into a single outcome. Physicists still debate what this means, but the mathematics is clear. Before you look, the quantum world holds all possibilities gently, like seeds that have not yet decided which way to grow. Imagine a story not yet written, where every possible ending exists simultaneously. The hero might triumph or fail, fall in love or walk alone, find treasure or learn that the journey was the treasure all along, until the story is told. All endings are equally real. Perhaps your future is like that wave function, full of possibilities that have not yet collapsed into certainty. Perhaps that is not something to fear, but something to welcome. In the quantum silence, all paths are open. Rest here in the space of possibility. Electrons exist as probability clouds, like mist around a nucleus. In the old model of the atom, electrons orbited the nucleus like tiny planets around a sun. But quantum mechanics revealed something stranger and more beautiful. Electrons do not follow precise paths. They exist as probability distributions, clouds of likelihood that show where the electron is most probably located. These clouds are called orbitals, and they have elegant shapes, spheres and dumbbells and clover leaves. The electron is not in one place, moving to another place. It is smeared across a region of space, more likely to be found in some areas than others, but never pinned down until observed. Imagine morning mist in a valley. The mist is thicker in some places, thinner in others, but you cannot draw a sharp line and say the mist is here and not there. It fades gradually, everywhere and nowhere at once. Perhaps you might let your awareness become like that mist, not focused sharply on any one thing, but gently present across the whole of your experience, aware of your breath, your body, the sounds around you, all at once, without needing to locate yourself precisely. You are allowed to be diffuse tonight. You are allowed to drift. Quantum tunneling lets particles pass through barriers by being everywhere at once. In classical physics, a ball rolling toward a hill will stop if it does not have enough energy to get over the top. But in quantum mechanics, particles can do something impossible. They can tunnel through barriers they do not have the energy to climb. This is called quantum tunneling. And it happens because particles are not just points moving through space. They are probability waves, spread out across regions. Part of the wave function can extend through the barrier to the other side. Tunneling is not rare or exotic. It powers the nuclear fusion in the sun that gives us light. It makes certain chemical reactions possible. It may even play a role in how your brain's synapses work. Imagine a ghost walking through a wall. In classical physics, that is impossible. But at the quantum level, particles walk through walls all the time, not by magic, but by being blurry enough that some of their probability leaks through. Perhaps there are barriers in your life that seem solid but are actually more permeable than they appear. Perhaps sleep itself is a kind of tunneling, passing through the wall between waking and dreaming. Let yourself become a little blurry tonight, Let yourself pass gently through. The double slit experiment shows particles behave differently when observed. One of the most famous experiments in physics involves shooting particles, one at a time, at a barrier with two slits. You might expect the particles to pass through one slit or the other and form two bands on a detector behind the barrier. But that is not what happens. The particles form an interference pattern, a series of light and dark bands, as if each particle passed through both slits at once and interfered with itself. Strangest of all, if you set up a detector to watch which slit the particle goes through, the interference pattern disappears. The particle behaves like a normal particle again, passing through one slit only. Observation changes behavior. The act of watching collapses possibilities into certainties. Imagine a shy dancer who moves beautifully when alone, but freezes when someone watches. The quantum world is like that dancer. It flows freely when unobserved, but chooses a single path when eyes are upon it. Perhaps tonight, you might close your eyes and let yourself flow freely. No one is watching. No one is measuring. You can move through the slits of sleep however you wish. Superposition means a particle can be in two places until you look. Superposition is the quantum principle that allows particles to exist in multiple states simultaneously. A particle can be here and there at the same time. It can spin up and spin down at once. It can be in all possible configurations until a measurement forces it to choose. This is not a metaphor or a simplification. It is how the quantum world actually works. Countless experiments have confirmed it. The strangeness is real. Erwin Schrödinger illustrated this with his famous thought experiment about a cat in a box, simultaneously alive and dead until someone opens the lid. He meant it as a criticism, to show how absurd quantum superposition seemed when applied to everyday objects. But the math said he was right about particles. Imagine being in two places at once, lying in bed, and also standing under the stars, resting here, and also floating above the ocean. In the quantum world, such things are normal. Perhaps your thoughts tonight can be like that. Not one thing or another, but gently both. Awake and drifting, present and dreaming. You do not need to choose. You can rest in superposition. Quantum decoherence is how the fuzzy quantum world becomes our solid reality. If particles can be in many states at once, why does the everyday world seem so solid and definite? The answer lies in a process called decoherence. When a quantum system interacts with its environment, with air molecules, photons, thermal vibrations, it becomes entangled with all those particles. The superposition leaks out into the world. The crisp quantum interference patterns become blurred and washed out. Decoherence does not destroy superposition. It spreads it so thin that we can no longer see it. The quantum fuzziness is still there, but it is diluted into the vast environment. Imagine a drop of dye falling into a glass of water. For a moment, you can see the color swirling, distinct and vivid. But as it spreads and mixes, it fades into the whole, still present but invisible. Perhaps your busy thoughts are like that drop of dye, slowly diffusing into the stillness around you. They do not need to disappear. They just spread out until they become part of the quiet. The world seems solid because the quantum is everywhere, and you are part of that everywhere, gently resting. The quantum eraser experiment suggests the future can influence the past. In a mind-bending variation of the double-slit experiment, physicists set up a system where they could choose, after a particle had already passed through the slits, whether or not to erase the information about which slit it went through. When they erased the information, the interference pattern appeared, even though the particle had already been detected. It was as if the particle went back in time and changed its behavior based on a choice made in its future. Physicists still debate what this means. Some say it shows the future can influence the past. Others say it reveals that past and future are not as separate as we think. Imagine a story that changes when you close the book. The words were already there, but somehow the ending shifts based on how you felt while reading. Perhaps time is more flexible than it seems. Perhaps the choices you make tomorrow are already gently shaping today. Perhaps rest tonight is already influencing who you will be when you wake. The quantum world does not follow our simple ideas about time, and neither, perhaps, do you. Zero-point energy remains even when everything else is removed. If you could take a region of space and remove everything from it, all the matter, all the light, all the heat, you would not be left with nothing. You would be left with zero-point energy. This is the irreducible hum of the quantum vacuum, the energy that cannot be taken away because it is woven into the structure of space itself. Scientists have measured zero-point energy in laboratories. It is not theoretical. It is as real as the ground beneath your feet. Even though you cannot see it or touch it, imagine a well that never runs dry. No matter how much water you draw, more remains. The quantum vacuum is like that well. Its energy is inexhaustible, constant, always present. Perhaps there is something in you that is like that too. A core of stillness that remains no matter what is taken away. A quiet that persists through all the noise of life. Tonight, you rest upon that inexhaustible quiet. It will still be here when you wake. The Dirac sea imagined the vacuum as full of negative energy electrons. In 1930, physicist Paul Dirac proposed a strange idea to explain his equations. He imagined that the vacuum was not empty, but filled with an infinite sea of electrons with negative energy. According to Dirac, what we call empty space is actually a sea that is completely full. Every negative energy state is occupied. When we see a particle, it is because an electron has jumped out of the sea, leaving a hole behind. That hole behaves like a positively charged particle, the positron. Dirac had accidentally predicted antimatter before it was discovered. The Dirac sea is no longer the main way physicists think about the vacuum, but it was a crucial step toward understanding that emptiness is full of hidden structure. Imagine standing on a beach, thinking you are looking at empty air, not realizing the ocean behind you is teeming with life. The vacuum is like that ocean, invisible but full. Perhaps the silence around you tonight is like the Dirac sea, not empty, but so completely filled that it seems like nothing is there. Hawking radiation emerges from the silence at a black hole's edge. In 1974, Stephen Hawking made a startling prediction. Black holes, those regions of space where gravity is so strong that nothing can escape, are not completely black. They glow. At the edge of a black hole, the event horizon, virtual particles are constantly appearing and disappearing, as they do everywhere. But at the event horizon, something special happens. Sometimes one particle of a pair falls in while the other escapes. the escaping particle becomes real. It carries energy away from the black hole, over immense timescales. Black holes slowly evaporate, leaking energy back into the universe. Imagine a silent, dark room. So dark you think nothing is there. But if you look closely enough, you see the faintest glow, light escaping from the darkness itself. Perhaps even the darkest places have something to give. Perhaps even the deepest silence has a whisper. The universe finds ways to speak, even from the quietest places. And so, perhaps, do you. Virtual photons carry the electromagnetic force in invisible silence. Every time two charged particles interact, pushing or pulling on each other, they exchange virtual photons. These are the messenger particles of the electromagnetic force, and they exist only for the briefest moments. Virtual photons cannot be seen or measured directly. They exist in the strange space between real and unreal, carrying information and force without ever becoming visible light. Your body holds itself together, partly because of these silent messengers. The atoms in your cells communicate through virtual photons, maintaining the delicate structure of life. Imagine a conversation where no words are spoken aloud, where all meaning passes through glances and gestures too subtle to name. Virtual photons have that kind of conversation constantly, keeping the universe intact. Perhaps you might notice the silent conversations happening within you right now. Your nerves sending signals, your heart keeping rhythm, your cells exchanging messages. All of it happening quietly, beneath your awareness. The forces that hold you together do not need to be loud. They work in silence, and they are working now. The quantum vacuum is the canvas on which all existence is painted. If the quantum vacuum is the most fundamental layer of reality, then everything we see, every star, every stone, every thought, is like a pattern painted on that canvas. The canvas itself is quiet. It holds potential, not actuality. It is the background against which the drama of the universe unfolds. Some physicists describe matter as ripples in quantum fields that pervade all space. The fields are always there, everywhere, and particles are just vibrations in those fields, like notes played on an infinite instrument. Imagine an artist with an infinite canvas, never running out of space, able to create forever. The quantum vacuum is that canvas, and existence is the artwork constantly being created upon it. Perhaps you might feel yourself resting on that canvas tonight, supported by the quiet potential of the vacuum, held by the same silence that holds galaxies. You are a pattern in the quantum field, a beautiful, temporary arrangement of vibrations. And even when you rest, the canvas remains, patient and still, ready to hold whatever comes next. And with that, the first cluster of facts about the quantum whisper comes to a gentle close. Perhaps you might take a breath. Let it out slowly. Feel the silence between the clusters, the quiet pause between ideas. The next 25 facts will explore the space within you, the vast emptiness inside every atom, the cathedral of nothing that makes up most of who you are. But there is no hurry. You can rest here as long as you like. The facts will wait. 99.999999999% of an atom is empty space. If you were to look at an atom, truly look at it, you would find almost nothing there. The nucleus, containing protons and neutrons, occupies only a tiny fraction of the atom's volume. The rest is emptiness. Physicists have calculated the numbers precisely. More than 99.999999999% of an atom is empty space. The solid matter we see and touch is almost entirely made of nothing. This emptiness is not a flaw or a mistake. It is how atoms work. The electrons that orbit the nucleus need room to move, room to exist in their probability clouds. Imagine a cathedral with a single grain of sand floating at its center. That grain is the nucleus. The walls of the cathedral are where the electrons might be found. Everything between is space. Perhaps you might notice how much space is around you right now. The air, which seems so substantial, is mostly emptiness between molecules. The walls, which seem so solid, are mostly nothing at all. You are surrounded by space. You are made of space, and that space is peaceful. If the nucleus were a marble, the electrons would orbit half a mile away. To understand how empty an atom truly is, it helps to scale things up. If you enlarged the nucleus of an atom to the size of a small marble, the electrons would be found about half a mile away. Everything between, all that distance, would be empty. No matter, no structure, just space. This means that when you look at your hand, you are looking at something that is almost entirely void. The atoms that make up your skin, your bones, your blood, are vast empty regions with tiny specks of matter scattered through them. Imagine a city where the only solid things are a few grains of rice, one at the center and a few more at the edges. Everything else, all the buildings, all the streets, all the parks, is just space. Perhaps your body might feel lighter knowing this. You are not as dense as you seem. You are spacious. You are open. You are mostly the same emptiness that exists between stars. There is so much room inside you, room enough for rest. Remove the empty space from humanity, and we would fit in a sugar cube. If you could somehow squeeze all the empty space out of every atom in every human being on Earth, the remaining matter would be incredibly small. All 8 billion people would compress into a volume about the size of a sugar cube. This is not science fiction. This is the mathematics of atomic structure. Neutron stars demonstrate this principle. They are the collapsed cores of massive stars, where gravity has crushed atoms together so tightly that the empty space is gone. A teaspoon of neutron star material would weigh billions of tons. We are, in a very real sense, mostly nothing. The space that makes us feel solid and substantial is an illusion created by electromagnetic forces. Imagine all of humanity, every person who has ever lived, every person alive today, compressed into something you could hold in your palm. That is how little matter there actually is. Perhaps this might change how you feel about yourself tonight. You are not heavy. You are not dense. You are a vast and spacious being, mostly made of the same gentle emptiness as the cosmos. You have never truly touched anything. Atoms repel before contact. When you reach out and touch something, your fingers never actually make contact with it. The atoms in your skin and the atoms in whatever you touch repel each other before they can meet. This repulsion is caused by electromagnetic forces. The electron clouds around atoms push against each other. They can get close, very close, but they never truly touch. Everything you have ever felt, Every texture, every temperature, every sensation of contact has been this repulsion. The softness of a pillow, the warmth of another hand, the cool surface of a glass. All of it is atoms pushing other atoms away. Imagine two magnets with the same pole facing each other. No matter how hard you press, they resist. That is what is happening at the atomic level every time you touch something. Perhaps there is something poignant in this. We reach for connection, and the universe gives us something subtler than contact, a conversation of forces, a dance of repulsion that feels like touch. You have never truly touched anything, and yet you have felt so much. The solid feeling of touch is electromagnetic pushback, not contact. What we experience as solidity, the feeling of pressing against something firm, is entirely created by electromagnetic forces. There is no actual contact, just fields interacting with fields. When you sit in a chair, you are hovering above it at an atomic level. The electrons in the chair push against the electrons in your body, and this pushback is what you feel as support. The entire sensation of the physical world, the ground beneath your feet, the clothes against your skin, the weight of a book in your hands, is electromagnetic. Imagine that you are floating on an invisible cushion of force at all times. You never land. You never touch down. You are always buoyed up by the repulsion between atoms. Perhaps you might let yourself feel supported by those forces now. Whatever is beneath you is gently pushing you up, holding you in place through electromagnetic kindness. You are not resting on matter. You are resting on force. And that force is holding you exactly where you need to be. Your chair holds you up through invisible forces, not physical support. Every piece of furniture, every floor, every surface that seems to support you is doing so through electromagnetic repulsion. The atoms in the surface push against the atoms in your body, and this creates the sensation of being held. There is no solid platform beneath you. There is a field of force, invisible and gentle, that maintains the distance between atoms and creates the feeling of support. Engineers and physicists understand this. The strength of materials comes from the bonds between atoms, and those bonds are electromagnetic. When a bridge holds up traffic, it is electromagnetism doing the work. Imagine lying on a cloud made of invisible hands, each one gently pushing you up, preventing you from falling through. That is closer to the truth than the idea of lying on solid matter. Perhaps you might sink a little deeper into that support tonight. The forces that hold you are older than the earth. They have been holding atoms apart since the beginning of time. You are safe in their invisible embrace. Most of you is not matter. It is spaciousness. When you consider the emptiness of atoms, a remarkable truth emerges. Most of what you call your body is not substance. It is space. The matter in your body, all the protons and neutrons and electrons, accounts for a tiny fraction of your volume. The rest is emptiness. The vast interiors of atoms, the space between molecules. You are not a solid object. You are a pattern of matter floating in an ocean of space. The boundaries of your body are more like suggestions than walls. Imagine a net stretched across a wide ocean. The net has some threads, some knots, but most of what it encompasses is water. Your body is like that net, a structure of matter with space flowing through every part. Perhaps this might feel freeing. you are not trapped in dense flesh. You are open, permeable, spacious. The air moves through you. Light passes through you. The world interpenetrates you constantly. You are made of space, resting in space, being space. A neutron star shows what happens when atomic emptiness collapses. When a massive star dies, its core can collapse under its own gravity. If the collapse is strong enough, the empty space inside atoms is crushed out. Electrons are forced into protons, creating neutrons, and the entire core becomes a ball of neutrons packed together with no space between. This is a neutron star. A teaspoon of its material would weigh about 6 billion tons. It is matter without emptiness, substance without space. Neutron stars are incredibly dense, incredibly small for their mass, and incredibly strange. They spin rapidly, emit beams of radiation, and warp space around them. Imagine taking all the empty space out of a mountain and compressing the remaining matter into a sugar cube. That sugar cube would be devastatingly heavy. That is what neutron stars are made of. Perhaps this helps you appreciate the emptiness inside you. It is not nothing. It is the spaciousness that allows you to exist as you are. Without that space, you would be crushed into something unrecognizable. The emptiness is what makes life possible. Every atom in your body was once inside a star that died. The hydrogen in your body was created in the Big Bang, but almost everything else, the carbon in your cells, the oxygen in your blood, the calcium in your bones, was forged inside stars. Stars are nuclear furnaces. In their cores, hydrogen fuses into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into heavier elements. When massive stars die in supernova explosions, they scatter these elements across space. Billions of years later, some of those elements came together to form the Earth, and eventually, to form you. Imagine the journey of a single carbon atom, born in the heart of a star, scattered across light years by an explosion, drifting through space for eons, finally settling into your body. That atom remembers silence. It was forged in cosmic quiet. Perhaps you might feel a connection to those ancient stars tonight. They gave their matter so you could exist. Their silence became your silence. Their space became your space. You are made of stellar gifts, given in cosmic quietude. Your atoms have existed for billions of years in countless forms. The atoms in your body are ancient. Most of them have existed for over 4 billion years, since the formation of the solar system. Before that, they drifted in interstellar clouds. Before that, they were inside stars. These atoms have been part of countless things before becoming you. They have been in rocks and water, in plants and animals, in the air and the soil. They have cycled through the Earth systems for billions of years, and they will continue after you. The atoms that make up your body will disperse and become part of other things. New plants, new animals, new people, new stars perhaps. Imagine an endless river of transformation, atoms flowing from form to form across deep time. You are a momentary eddy in that river, a temporary gathering of ancient particles. Perhaps this might ease any worry about permanence. You are not here to last forever in this form. You are here to be part of the flow, to hold these atoms gently for a while before passing them on. The atoms rest in you tonight. Tomorrow, they continue their journey. The carbon in your cells was forged in stellar silence long ago. Carbon is the backbone of life. Every cell in your body contains carbon atoms, linked together in long chains that form the structure of proteins and DNA. Without carbon, life as we know it would be impossible. Every carbon atom in your body was created inside a star, in the core of a red giant. Helium nuclei fused together to form carbon through a process called the triple alpha process. This happened in stellar silence, in the deep interior where no sound could exist. Billions of years later, that carbon is in you, still carrying the memory of its silent birth. Imagine the carbon in your cells as tiny fragments of starlight made solid. They were forged in fire but born in silence, and they have traveled across the universe to be part of you tonight. Perhaps you might feel grateful for those ancient stars. They worked in silence to create the building blocks of your existence. Their quiet labor made your life possible. You carry stellar silence in every cell. You are recycled stardust, temporarily arranged as a person. The phrase stardust is not a metaphor. It is a scientific description. The elements that make up your body were created in stars and scattered through space. You are, quite literally, made of star material, but you are also temporary. The arrangement of atoms, that is, you will eventually come apart. The stardust will continue, but the pattern that is you will dissolve back into the flow of matter. This is not sad. It is how the universe works. Stars are temporary too. Galaxies will one day fade. Everything is a pattern that rises and falls. Imagine a wave on the ocean. The wave has a shape, a movement, a life of its own. But it is made of water that was there before the wave and will be there after. The wave is the water's temporary form. Perhaps you might let yourself be like that wave tonight, rising gently, existing beautifully, and knowing that when you settle back into the ocean, nothing is lost. You are stardust. Dreaming, it is a person. Rest well. Beautiful pattern. String theory suggests all matter is tiny vibrating loops of energy. String theory is one of the most ambitious attempts to understand the fundamental nature of reality. It proposes that at the smallest scale, everything is made of tiny one-dimensional loops of energy called strings. These strings are unimaginably small, far smaller than any particle we can currently detect. They vibrate at different frequencies, and these vibrations determine what kind of particle the string appears to be. In this view, all matter is music. Electrons, quarks, photons. They are all the same strings vibrating differently. The universe is a symphony of vibrating loops. Imagine a cosmic orchestra where every instrument is actually the same string, just played differently. The violin and the flute and the drum are all one string, creating different notes. Perhaps you might feel yourself as part of that symphony. The atoms in your body are vibrating strings, playing a quiet music that no ear can hear. You are a chord in the cosmic song. Rest in the music of your own existence. Different vibrations create different particles, like cosmic music. If string theory is correct, then the diversity of matter comes from the diversity of vibrations. A string vibrating one way appears as an electron. Vibrating another way, it appears as a quark. Vibrating yet another way, it appears as a photon. This means that at the deepest level, Everything is made of the same stuff. The difference between light and matter, between one element and another, is just a difference in frequency. The universe is not made of many different substances. It is made of one substance, singing many songs. Imagine a single musician who can make any sound by changing how they play. Sometimes it sounds like a violin, sometimes a drum, sometimes a human voice, but it is always the same musician, the same instrument, just different ways of playing. Perhaps all the complexity of your body, all the different cells and chemicals and structures, is really just one thing vibrating in countless ways. A single energy, diversified into life. You are a symphony of one musician. Listen to yourself play. Matter may be energy that learned to stand still. Einstein showed that mass and energy are equivalent. E equals mc squared. This famous equation tells us that matter is a form of frozen energy. Energy that has taken on mass and become stationary. In this view, particles are not fundamentally different from light. They are light that has slowed down, energy that has crystallized into form. When you look at solid matter, you are looking at congealed energy. The chair, the wall, your own body. These are all energy that has learned to stay in place. Imagine water freezing into ice. The water was flowing, moving, dynamic. The ice is still, solid, fixed. Matter is like that ice, energy frozen into form. Perhaps your body tonight is frozen light, the warmth of stars, the energy of the Big Bang, all condensed and cooled into the shape of you. You can thaw, you can flow, but for now, you rest in solid form, energy at peace. Mass and energy are the same thing, wearing different costumes. Einstein's insight goes both ways. Not only is mass a form of energy, but energy has mass. Light, though it seems weightless, carries momentum and can exert pressure. Energy and mass are two faces of the same reality. This means the distinction we make between physical things and energy is somewhat artificial. They are interchangeable, convertibly, ultimately identical. Nuclear reactions demonstrate this. When atoms fuse or split, a tiny bit of mass converts into enormous energy. The sun shines because mass becomes light. Nuclear power and nuclear weapons work the same way. Imagine a costume party where everyone wears different outfits, but underneath they are all the same person. Mass and energy are like that. The same thing dressed in different appearances. Perhaps the heaviness you sometimes feel is just energy in disguise. Perhaps the lightness you seek is always present, hiding beneath the costume of matter. You are energy and mass, both at once, changing costumes moment by moment. The Higgs field gives particles their mass by slowing them through space. In 2012, scientists at CERN confirmed the existence of the Higgs boson, a particle that reveals the presence of the Higgs field. This field pervades all of space and gives particles their mass. Without the Higgs field, particles would be massless and would travel at the speed of light. They would never slow down, never form atoms, never create matter as we know it. The Higgs field acts like a kind of cosmic molasses. Some particles interact with it strongly and become heavy. Others interact weakly and stay light. Photons do not interact with it at all. which is why light is massless. Imagine walking through honey. The more you push against it, the slower you move, the heavier you feel. The Higgs field is like that honey, giving mass to particles that push through it. Perhaps there is a comfort in knowing that mass is not inherent. It is a gift from the field. The weight you carry is given to you by the fabric of space itself. You are held in the cosmic honey, gently slowed into existence. Without the Higgs, everything would fly apart at the speed of light. If the Higgs field did not exist, there would be no mass. Without mass, particles could not slow down. Without slowing down, atoms could not form. Without atoms, there would be no stars, no planets, no life. Everything would race through the universe at the speed of light, never connecting, never combining, never creating structure. The Higgs field makes stillness possible. It allows particles to rest, to gather, to build. It is the cosmic permission to slow down. Imagine a world where nothing could ever stop moving. No pause, no rest, no gathering, just endless motion. Forever. The Higgs field saves us from that fate. Perhaps tonight you might thank the Higgs field. It allows you to be still. It allows you to rest. Without it, you would be a streak of light racing toward infinity, never knowing what it means to pause. The universe created a way to slow down, and here you are, slowly resting. Your body contains about 7 octillion atoms, mostly empty space. 7 octillion. That is a 7 followed by 27 zeros. That is how many atoms are in an average human body. Each of those atoms is mostly empty space. Yet together, they create the sensation of solidity, the experience of being a body. This is one of the miracles of existence. From emptiness, a substance arises. From nothing, form emerges. From 7 octillion points of almost nothing, a person appears. Imagine 7 octillion tiny bubbles floating in formation, creating the shape of a human. That is closer to the truth than the idea of solid flesh. Perhaps you might feel the enormity of that number. 7 octillion atoms, all cooperating to be you. 7 octillion tiny emptinesses, all agreeing to look like something solid. You are a vast collaboration of almost nothings. And somehow, it works. Somehow, you are here. The space within you is the same space between stars. The emptiness inside your atoms is not different from the emptiness between stars. It is the same space, the same vacuum, governed by the same physics. When you look up at the night sky and see the vast distances between stars, you are looking at something that also exists within you. The scale is different, but the nature is the same. You contain the universe. The cosmic emptiness is inside you at every moment. Imagine that the space between distant galaxies is folded up and tucked inside your cells. It is the same quantum vacuum, the same zero-point energy, the same fundamental emptiness. Perhaps you might feel expanded knowing this. You are not small. You contain vastness. The space within you connects you to the space between all things. You are the universe, looking at itself from the inside. Atomic bonds are not physical links, but shared electron clouds. When atoms join together to form molecules, they do not snap together like building blocks. Instead, their electron clouds merge and overlap, The bond is a sharing, not a connection. Electrons move between atoms, belonging to both at once, creating a region of shared probability. This is what holds molecules together, what makes water liquid and steel strong. Chemistry is the science of these shared spaces, these overlapping clouds of probability where atoms meet and merge. Imagine two people holding hands, but instead of clasping fingers, their hands become transparent and interpenetrate. That is what atomic bonding is like. Perhaps the connections in your life are similar. Not hard links, but shared spaces. Not possessions, but overlaps. Relationships where boundaries blur and something new emerges. You are bonded to the world through shared electrons. The boundaries between you and everything else are gentler than they seem. Chemistry is really the physics of electron relationships. Every chemical reaction, every color and taste and smell, every process of life comes down to electrons. How they are arranged around atoms, how they are shared between molecules, how they jump from one energy level to another. Chemistry seems like its own science, with its own rules. But at root, it is physics. The physics of electrons forming relationships with each other and with atomic nuclei. Your entire body runs on electron relationships. The food you eat is broken down by electron rearrangements. The energy you use is carried by electrons. The thoughts in your brain are electron signals. Imagine a vast social network of electrons, constantly forming new relationships, breaking old ones, passing energy and information. That is what is happening inside you right now. Perhaps you might appreciate the electrons doing their quiet work, trillions of relationships forming and dissolving every second, all to keep you alive and thinking and dreaming. You are a community of electrons. Rest well. Electron City. The emptiness inside atoms follows the same laws as cosmic voids. Physicists have discovered that the same principles govern the very small and the very large. Quantum mechanics describes atoms, but its effects ripple up to cosmic scales. General relativity describes galaxies, but its effects ripple down to atomic scales. The emptiness inside an atom is subject to the same laws as the emptiness between galaxy clusters. Scale does not change the fundamental physics. This means you can look at the space within you and know it obeys the same rules as the space between stars. You are a fractal of the cosmos, repeating the same patterns at every level. Imagine zooming in and out, seeing the same shapes and rules at every magnification. That is what the universe is like. Atoms mirror galaxies. Your body mirrors the cosmos. Perhaps you might feel at home knowing this. The universe is consistent. The laws that hold galaxies together hold your atoms together. You are part of a unified whole. The emptiness within is the same emptiness without. Rest in that consistency. You are a pattern of information more than a collection of stuff. Some physicists believe that information is more fundamental than matter. The arrangement of particles, the relationships between them, the patterns they form. This is what truly exists. Matter is just how information manifests. In this view, you are not a collection of atoms. You are a pattern. To structure, a way of organizing information. The atoms could be swapped out, replaced by different atoms, and as long as the pattern remained, you would still be you. Your identity is not in your matter, but in your organization. You are a song, not a collection of notes. Imagine a wave in the ocean. The wave is a pattern that moves through water. The water itself does not travel with the wave. It just rises and falls as the pattern passes through. You are like that wave, a pattern moving through the ocean of atoms. Perhaps this is liberating. You are not trapped in matter. You are a dance, a form, a way of being. The matter comes and goes, but the pattern persists. You are information, resting in the silence. The boundaries between you and the universe are mostly imaginary. Where do you end and the world begin? It seems obvious. Your skin is the boundary, but at the atomic level, that boundary dissolves. Atoms from the air are constantly entering your body with each breath. Atoms from food become part of your cells. Atoms leave your body constantly. Shared into the environment, you are in constant exchange with everything around you. The boundary of your skin is useful for everyday purposes, but it is not fundamental. At the level of atoms, you are continuous with the universe. There is no sharp line. Imagine a whirlpool in a river. The whirlpool seems like a separate thing, but it is made entirely of river water, constantly flowing through it. You are like that whirlpool, a pattern in the flow of atoms. Perhaps you might let that boundary soften tonight. You are not sealed off from the world. You are part of it, woven into it, exchanging with it constantly. The universe breathes through you. You breathe through the universe. And with that, the second cluster of facts about the space within comes to a gentle close. Perhaps you might take another breath. Let it out slowly. Feel the emptiness that makes up most of who you are. The next 25 facts will explore the cosmic quiet, the vast silence of space, the ancient whispers that travel between stars. But for now, rest here in the knowledge of your own spaciousness. You are vaster than you knew. In space, sound cannot travel. There is no medium to carry it. Sound is a wave that travels through matter. It needs something to push against, something to vibrate. Air, water, solid ground. Without a medium, sound cannot exist. Space is nearly a perfect vacuum. There are so few particles that sound waves cannot form. If you screamed in space, even someone right next to you would hear nothing. This is why space is silent. Not quiet, but truly silent. The vast distances between stars contain almost nothing, and nothing cannot vibrate. Nothing cannot carry sound. Imagine an ocean with no water. You could drop a pebble, but there would be no ripples. Space is like that ocean. Events happen. Stars explode. Galaxies collide. But no sound reaches across the void. Perhaps you might notice the sounds around you now. The hum of a room. The whisper of your breath. Distant noises from the world outside. These sounds exist because you are surrounded by air. In space, there would be only silence. The cosmos is a quiet place, and tonight, you rest under its silent canopy. The average density of the universe is 6 hydrogen atoms per cubic meter. If you could take all the matter in the observable universe and spread it evenly through all of space, you would end up with about 6 hydrogen atoms per cubic meter. That is almost nothing. The air you breathe contains about 25 quintillion molecules per cubic centimeter. The universe, on average, has 6 atoms per cubic meter. The difference is staggering. Most of the universe is empty. The galaxies, the stars, The planets. They are tiny islands in an ocean of void. Between those islands, there is almost nothing at all. Imagine a single grain of sand in a room the size of a cathedral. That is roughly the proportion of matter to space in the cosmos. The room seems empty, but the grain is there, somewhere. Perhaps you might feel the spaciousness of existence. You live on one of those tiny islands of matter, surrounded by vastness. The emptiness is not hostile. It simply is. The universe is mostly nothing, and that nothing is peaceful. Between galaxies, there may be only one atom in each cubic meter. The space between galaxies is even emptier than the average. In intergalactic voids, the density drops to about 1 atom per cubic meter, sometimes even less. These regions are the loneliest places in the universe. No stars to warm them, no planets to orbit, no light except what drifts in from distant galaxy clusters. Just emptiness, stretching for millions of light years. And yet, even this emptiness is not absolute. There is always something, even if it is just a single hydrogen atom floating in a cubic meter of space. Imagine walking through a forest where the trees are millions of miles apart. That is what the intergalactic medium is like. Sparse beyond comprehension, but not quite nothing. Perhaps there is comfort in knowing that even the emptiest places have something. The universe does not do absolute zero, does not do perfect vacuum. There is always a whisper of presence. You are never truly alone. Even in the void, something remains. The Boötes Void is 330 million light-years of almost nothing. In the constellation Boötes, there is a region of space that puzzled astronomers when they discovered it. It is almost completely empty of galaxies, 330 million light-years across, containing only about 60 galaxies where thousands would be expected. This is the Boötes Void, sometimes called the Great Void. It is one of the largest known structures in the universe, and it is defined by what it lacks. Some scientists speculate about why this region is so empty. Perhaps the galaxies just happened to form elsewhere. Perhaps something pushed them away. The void remains a mystery. Imagine a bubble in the cosmic foam, a region where the froth never formed. That is the Boötes Void, a bubble of emptiness in a universe of structure. Perhaps you might find peace in knowing such emptiness can exist. Not every space needs to be filled. Not every silence needs to be broken. Sometimes, emptiness is simply allowed to be. The universe has room for great voids, and so do you. Light travels for billions of years through near-perfect silence. When you look at a distant galaxy, you are seeing light that left that galaxy billions of years ago. That light has traveled across the universe, through the near-perfect vacuum of space, in absolute silence. No sound accompanied it, no vibration in any medium, just photons, moving at the speed of light, crossing unimaginable distances through the quietest environment possible. The light from the most distant galaxies has been traveling for over 13 billion years. For all that time, it moved through silence, and now it reaches your eyes, carrying information from the ancient universe. Imagine a message in a bottle, drifting across a calm ocean for billions of years, finally washing up on your shore. That is what starlight is. A silent message, traveling through the cosmic quiet. Perhaps you might feel honored to receive such messages. Light from ancient stars, crossing the silent universe to reach you. The cosmos has been sending you postcards for billions of years. You are the destination of silent journeys you cannot imagine. The space between stars in our galaxy averages 5 light-years. Even within our own galaxy, the distances are immense. The average space between stars in the Milky Way is about 5 light-years. That is nearly 30 trillion miles of mostly nothing. Our nearest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri, is about 4 light-years away. If you could travel at the speed of the fastest spacecraft ever built, it would take tens of thousands of years to reach it. The stars that seem so close together in the night sky are separated by gulfs of silence. The constellations that appear connected are illusions of perspective. The stars are alone in the dark, separated by light-years of void. Imagine a city where each house is 5 miles from the next, with nothing but empty desert between. That is what our galaxy is like. Islands of light in oceans of dark. Perhaps the stars do not mind their solitude. They shine anyway, into the silence, for billions of years. Perhaps solitude is not always loneliness. The stars shine alone, and they shine beautifully. If the sun were a white blood cell, the Milky Way would span the United States. To understand the scale of our galaxy, it helps to shrink things down. If the sun were the size of a white blood cell, about 10 micrometers across, then the Milky Way would be roughly the size of the continental United States. In this scale model, the nearest star would be about 15 feet away. Most of the space between would be empty. The galaxy would be a vast, sparse cloud of microscopic dots, spread across thousands of miles. This gives some sense of how much emptiness there is, even within a galaxy. Stars are tiny points in an enormous space. The distances between them are almost incomprehensibly large. Imagine standing in New York, knowing that the nearest other person is in Los Angeles, and there is nothing but silence between you. That is the scale of stellar distances. Perhaps this might help you appreciate the night sky differently. Those points of light are not close together. They are separated by abysses of quiet. The sky is a map of isolation and distance. And yet, somehow, we see them all. We are connected to them by light. The cosmic microwave background is the afterglow of creation. About 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe cooled enough for atoms to form. Before that, space was a dense plasma that light could not penetrate. When atoms formed, the universe became transparent, and light was released. That light has been traveling ever since. It has cooled and stretched as the universe expanded, becoming microwave radiation. It fills all of space, coming from every direction. It is called the cosmic microwave background, or CMB. The CMB is the oldest light in the universe. It is a snapshot of the cosmos when it was just beginning to take shape. It is the afterglow of the Big Bang, still glowing faintly after nearly 14 billion years. Imagine the ember of a fire that has been cooling for billions of years, still giving off the faintest warmth. That is the CMB, the universe's first light, still present, still whispering. Perhaps you might feel the presence of that ancient light right now. It passes through you constantly, undetected by your senses, but real nonetheless. The echo of creation surrounds you. You are bathed in the oldest light there is. This ancient light fills all of space at 2.7 Kelvin. The cosmic microwave background has a temperature of about 2.7 Kelvin, just a few degrees above absolute zero. This is the temperature of empty space, the baseline warmth of the universe itself. Everywhere you go in the cosmos, this faint radiation is present. It is the floor beneath all other temperatures, the quiet hum beneath all other signals. 2.7 Kelvin is cold by human standards, far colder than anything on Earth. But it is not zero. It is not nothing. The universe has a temperature, and the temperature is the memory of the Big Bang. Imagine a room that is almost completely dark, but if you look carefully, you can see the faintest glow on the walls. That glow is the CMB. It is everywhere, all the time, at 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. Perhaps this is comforting. The universe is not absolutely cold. It holds a tiny warmth, a remnant of its fiery birth. Even the void has a temperature. You rest in a universe that is slightly warm, just slightly, just enough. 1% of old television static came from the Big Bang itself. Before digital television, analog TVs would sometimes show static, that black and white noise that appeared when no station was broadcasting. About 1% of that static was caused by the cosmic microwave background. When you watched static on an old TV, you were watching the Big Bang. A tiny fraction of that noise was the ancient light of the early universe, picked up by your antenna and displayed on your screen. This was not theoretical, it was real. Every time someone watched static, they were seeing a faint echo of creation. The universe was broadcasting to them, and they were receiving. Imagine turning on a radio and hearing, beneath the noise, the whisper of the universe being born. That is what old televisions did, without anyone realizing it for decades. Perhaps you have seen the Big Bang without knowing it. Perhaps you have watched creation flicker on a screen, thinking it was just noise. The universe has been trying to tell you its story. It has been whispering in the static all along. The CMB is the oldest light, 13.8 billion years of traveling. The cosmic microwave background has been traveling through the universe for 13.8 billion years. It is the oldest electromagnetic radiation we can detect, the most ancient light that exists. When this light began its journey, there were no stars, no galaxies, no planets. The universe was a hot, dense soup of particles over billions of years. As the light traveled, the cosmos evolved. Stars formed, galaxies assembled, planets condensed. And all that time, this light was moving through space, carrying information from the beginning. Imagine a letter written on the first day of the universe, traveling through the mail for 14 billion years, finally arriving at your door. That is what the CMB is, the oldest message in existence. Perhaps you might feel awed by the age of this light. It is older than anything else you can perceive. It has seen more of the universe than any star or galaxy. It was there at the beginning. You are receiving mail from the dawn of time. We are surrounded by the whisper of the universe's first moments. The cosmic microwave background is not in one place. It is everywhere. It fills all of space, coming from every direction at once. You are immersed in it constantly, surrounded by the whisper of creation. This ancient light passes through walls, through your body, through everything. It is too faint to feel, too weak to detect without special instruments. But it is always there. Wherever you go in the universe, the CMB is present. It is the background, the baseline, the quiet hum beneath everything else. The universe's first light, still glowing, still whispering. Imagine being wrapped in a blanket woven from ancient light. That is what the CMB is doing to you right now. Surrounding you, passing through you, connecting you to the beginning. Perhaps you might feel held by that ancient light tonight. The universe's first breath, still exhaling, still present. You are wrapped in the memory of the Big Bang. The first moments are still here. They surround you. They hold you. Tiny temperature variations in the CMB became the seeds of galaxies. The cosmic microwave background is not perfectly uniform. There are tiny variations in temperature, differences of about 1 part in 100,000. These variations are the seeds that grew into all the structure we see in the universe. Slightly warmer regions had slightly more matter. Gravity pulled that matter together over billions of years. Those regions became the first stars, the first galaxies, the vast cosmic web of clusters and filaments. Every galaxy, including the Milky Way, can trace its origin back to a tiny ripple in the CMB, a slight variation in temperature, a small excess of matter, and billions of years of gravity did the rest. Imagine a perfectly smooth lake with the tiniest ripples on its surface. Over time, those ripples become waves, and the waves become islands. That is how galaxies formed. Perhaps you might feel your connection to those ancient ripples. The temperature variation that became your galaxy is still visible in the CMB, your cosmic address, written in microwave light. You are descended from a ripple in the oldest light. The interstellar medium contains about 1 atom per cubic centimeter. Between the stars in our galaxy, there is not perfect vacuum, but a thin gas called the interstellar medium. It contains about 1 atom per cubic centimeter, vastly more dense than intergalactic space, but still incredibly sparse. This gas is mostly hydrogen and helium, with traces of heavier elements. It is the raw material from which new stars form. When gravity pulls enough of it together, it collapses and ignites, creating a new star. The interstellar medium also contains dust, tiny grains of carbon and silicates. This dust scatters light, creates dark patches in the sky, and adds color to distant stars. Imagine a fog so thin you could not see it, so sparse that each droplet is a centimeter from the next. That is the interstellar medium, present, but barely. Perhaps you might appreciate the thin material between stars. It is not much, but it is enough to make new stars, new planets, new possibilities. From almost nothing, new suns are born. Cosmic dust grains are smaller than the width of a human hair. The dust that floats between stars is made of incredibly small particles. Most are smaller than the width of a human hair. Some as small as a few molecules across. Tiny specks of carbon, silicon, ice. These grains form in the outer atmospheres of dying stars, expelled into space as the star sheds its outer layers. They drift through the galaxy, mixing with gas, eventually becoming part of new star systems. The Earth formed partly from this cosmic dust. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, Some of it traveled between stars as microscopic grains before becoming part of our planet. Imagine dust motes floating in a sunbeam, but the sunbeam is light years long and the dust is scattered across the galaxy. That is cosmic dust, tiny, ancient, and everywhere. Perhaps some of the atoms in your body were once cosmic dust grains, drifting through the silent spaces between stars. Your matter has traveled far. You contain the dust of the galaxy, gathered and shaped into life. Interstellar clouds span light years but hold less matter than Earth's air. Some regions of the interstellar medium are denser than others, forming vast clouds that can span dozens of light years. These are the stellar nurseries where new stars are born. But even these dense clouds are incredibly sparse by earthly standards. A typical interstellar cloud contains less matter per cubic meter than the best vacuum we can create in a laboratory. The cloud seems substantial only because it is so vast. Light years of sparse gas add up to enough material to form stars. But if you could compress an entire interstellar cloud, it would fit in a small container. Imagine a cloud the size of a city but made of only a few pounds of mist. That is what interstellar clouds are like, vast and thin. Perhaps this might shift your sense of scale. Things that seem enormous in space are often mostly emptiness. The universe builds grandly from sparse materials. Size and substance are not the same thing. The local bubble is a region of low-density space around our Sun. Our solar system sits inside a region of space called the local bubble. This is a cavity in the interstellar medium, about 1,000 light-years across, where the gas density is unusually low. The local bubble was carved out by supernova explosions millions of years ago. Massive stars died, their explosions sweeping away the surrounding gas and leaving behind a region of relative emptiness. We live inside this bubble, surrounded by the thin remnants of ancient explosions. The interstellar medium around us is even sparser than usual. Imagine a clearing in a forest, created by a fire long ago. The trees around the edges are recovering, but the center is still open. That is the local bubble. Perhaps you might feel the spaciousness of our cosmic neighborhood. We are in a region of relative emptiness, a bubble within the galaxy, carved by the deaths of ancient stars. We live in a space made by stellar endings. A supernova explosion carved out this bubble millions of years ago. The supernovae that created the local bubble exploded between 10 and 20 million years ago. Multiple massive stars reached the end of their lives and detonated, their combined energy clearing out the gas around them. These explosions were violent events, releasing more energy in seconds than our Sun will produce in its entire lifetime. But we are safe now. The explosions are long past, and we drift through the quiet aftermath. Some of the debris from those supernovae has been found on Earth, in the form of rare isotopes in deep-sea sediments. The ancient explosions left their fingerprints on our planet. Imagine standing in a valley that was carved by floods millions of years ago. The water is gone, but the shape remains. That is the local bubble. Perhaps there is peace in knowing the violence has passed. The supernovae that made our home are long dead. We live in the quiet they left behind. Stellar destruction created stellar silence. The Oort cloud marks where our solar system fades into interstellar silence. At the outer edge of our solar system, far beyond Pluto, there is thought to be a vast shell of icy objects called the Oort cloud. This is where our solar system ends and interstellar space begins. The Oort cloud may extend from 2,000 to 100,000 astronomical units from the Sun. That is up to 1.5 light-years away. The objects there are so far from the Sun that its gravity barely holds them. Beyond the Oort cloud is true interstellar space, the realm between stars, the cosmic quiet that stretches to the next sun. Imagine the edge of a kingdom, where the maps become uncertain and the wilderness begins. That is the Oort cloud, the border between our home and the great beyond. Perhaps you might sense the vastness of our solar system's edge. We are wrapped in a shell of ancient ice, floating at the boundary of silence. Beyond that shell, the quiet deepens. Voyager 1 has entered interstellar space, the quietest place any human object has been. In 2012, the Voyager 1 spacecraft crossed the heliopause and entered interstellar space. It was the first human-made object to leave the influence of our Sun and drift into the space between stars. Voyager 1 is now over 14 billion miles from Earth. It takes over 22 hours for its radio signals to reach us. It is alone in the silent space between stars, still sending back data, still exploring. The spacecraft carries a golden record with sounds and images from Earth, a message for any intelligence that might find it millions of years from now. Imagine a bottle thrown into the cosmic ocean, carrying a message from humanity, drifting through the quietest waters imaginable. That is Voyager 1. Perhaps you might feel pride in this small achievement. We have sent a piece of ourselves into the interstellar silence, a whisper from Earth, now floating among the stars. Humanity has touched the cosmic quiet. Radio signals from Voyager take over 22 hours to reach Earth. Voyager 1 is so far away that light itself takes over 22 hours to make the journey. When we send a command to the spacecraft, we wait nearly 2 days for a response. This is the speed of light, the fastest anything can travel. And yet, at cosmic distances, even light seems slow. 22 hours to reach a spacecraft that is still within our solar neighborhood. The nearest star is 4 light-years away. A signal to Proxima Centauri would take 4 years to arrive. The cosmos is so vast that even light crawls across it. Imagine sending a letter that takes 22 hours to arrive, even though it travels at the fastest possible speed. That is communication with Voyager. Perhaps patience takes on new meaning at these scales. The universe moves slowly. Light crosses the void at the maximum speed. And still it takes years, centuries, eons to reach its destination. The cosmic conversation is a slow one, but it continues. The heliopause is where the Sun's influence ends and cosmic silence begins. The Sun emits a constant stream of particles called the solar wind. This wind flows outward through the solar system, pushing against the interstellar medium. The boundary where the solar wind stops is called the heliopause. Beyond the heliopause, the Sun's influence fades. The particles out there belong to the galaxy, not to our star. It is the true edge of the Sun's domain. Voyager 1 crossed this boundary and found a different kind of space, quieter, colder, belonging to the broader cosmos rather than to our particular star. Imagine the edge of a campfire's warmth, the boundary where the heat stops and the cold night begins. That is the heliopause, the edge of our Sun's fire, where the cosmic cold takes over. Perhaps you might feel the Sun's influence around you now, You are inside the heliosphere, wrapped in the solar wind, protected from the interstellar medium. The sun still holds you. Its warmth extends far into space. Dark matter makes up 27% of the universe and makes no sound. Most of the matter in the universe is not the ordinary matter we know. It is something else. Something that does not emit or absorb light, does not interact with electromagnetic forces. We call it dark matter. Dark matter makes up about 27% of the universe. It has mass. It has gravity. But it passes through ordinary matter like a ghost. We cannot see it, hear it, or touch it. The galaxies we see are embedded in vast halos of dark matter. The gravity of this invisible substance holds galaxies together and shapes the large-scale structure of the cosmos. Imagine a shadow that has weight, that shapes the world around it, but cannot be seen or felt directly. That is dark matter. Perhaps you might sense the invisible presence around you. Dark matter passes through you constantly, unnoticed, unfelt. The universe is full of things we cannot perceive. Silence has substance. The invisible has mass. Dark energy fills 70% of existence with silent expansion. Even more mysterious than dark matter is dark energy. It makes up about 70% of the universe, and its nature is almost completely unknown. What we do know is that dark energy is causing the expansion of the universe to accelerate. Galaxies are moving apart faster and faster, driven by this mysterious force that fills all of space. Dark energy does not clump or cluster. It is everywhere, evenly distributed, silently pushing the cosmos apart. It may be a property of space itself, an energy inherent in the vacuum. Imagine a gentle breath that fills all of existence, slowly expanding everything outward. That is dark energy, the universe's quiet exhalation. Perhaps you might feel the subtle expansion of space. Even now, the fabric of the cosmos is stretching, carrying galaxies apart, driven by an energy we do not understand. The silence is expanding. The void is growing, and it grows gently, peacefully, constantly. The observable universe is 93 billion light-years of mostly nothing. The observable universe, the part we can see, is about 93 billion light-years in diameter. This is an incomprehensible vastness, containing 2 trillion galaxies, each with billions of stars. And yet, most of this volume is empty space. The galaxies are islands. The stars are points. The planets are specks. Between them stretches the void, the cosmic quiet, the near-perfect vacuum of intergalactic space. If you could somehow travel through the observable universe, most of your journey would be through emptiness. The things that seem to fill the cosmos are actually tiny compared to the spaces between them. Imagine an ocean, 93 billion light-years wide, with a few trillion fish scattered through it. That is the universe, vast, mostly empty, and quiet. Perhaps you might feel the scale of that emptiness. The universe is not crowded. It is spacious beyond imagination. There is room for everything, and room to spare. You exist in a vast cathedral of nothing, and that nothing is peaceful. And with that, the third cluster of facts about the cosmic quiet comes to a gentle close. Perhaps you might take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Feel yourself floating in the cosmic silence that surrounds the earth. The final 25 facts will explore the sanctuary of stillness, the quietest places on earth, the healing power of silence, the doorway that quiet opens to deeper knowing. But there is no hurry. The silence will wait. It always does. The quietest room on earth measures -20.6 decibels. In Redmond, Washington, Microsoft built an anechoic chamber so quiet that it holds the Guinness World Record. The room measures -20.6 decibels, far below the threshold of human hearing. 0 decibels is not silence. It is the softest sound a healthy human can hear. -20.6 is more than 100 times quieter than that. It is a silence so deep that most people have never experienced anything like it. The room is designed to absorb all sound. The walls, floor, and ceiling are covered in foam wedges that trap sound waves and prevent any reflection. Inside, you hear only what your body creates. Imagine a room so quiet that the loudest thing in it is your own heartbeat. That is the anechoic chamber, a sanctuary of engineered stillness. Perhaps you might notice the sounds around you now and appreciate them differently. The ambient noise of life, the hum of existence. In the quietest room on earth, even that would be loud. True silence is stranger than we imagine. In absolute silence, you can hear your own heartbeat clearly. People who enter anechoic chambers often report hearing sounds they have never noticed before. The most common is their own heartbeat, suddenly audible in the profound quiet. The heart pumps blood through your body constantly, creating a rhythmic sound. Normally, ambient noise masks it, but in deep silence, your heart becomes the loudest thing in the room. Some people find this comforting, a reminder that they are alive. Others find it unsettling, too much awareness of the machinery of their own body. Imagine sitting in perfect stillness and hearing your heart announce its presence, beat by beat. That is what happens in the quietest rooms on earth. Perhaps you might tune into your heartbeat now. Even in ordinary quiet, you might feel it. A gentle pulse, always present, always working. The rhythm of your life. In silence, you hear what has always been there. You can hear blood flowing through your veins in an anechoic chamber. Beyond the heartbeat, some people in extreme silence report hearing the sound of blood flowing through their veins. A soft whooshing, the movement of life through the body. This is not imagination. Blood flow does create sound, a gentle turbulence as it moves through vessels. We never hear it because the world is too loud, but in absolute silence, it becomes audible. The body is a symphony of sounds we never notice. The gurgle of digestion, the creak of joints, the whisper of breathing. In silence, we hear the music of our own existence. Imagine discovering that you have been carrying a quiet orchestra inside you all along. That is what extreme silence reveals. Perhaps you might listen more deeply to your body tonight. The sounds it makes, the rhythms it keeps. You are a living, sounding being. Even in your quietest moments, you are never truly silent. You are always humming with life. Some people hear their nervous system humming in deep silence. In the most extreme quiet, some people report hearing a high-pitched tone, a kind of electrical hum. This may be the sound of the nervous system itself, the background noise of neurons firing. The nervous system is constantly active, sending electrical signals throughout the body. This activity may create a subtle vibration, normally undetectable, but audible in profound silence. Not everyone hears this, and scientists are not certain what causes the phenomenon, but those who experience it describe it as a kind of internal ringing, the sound of the mind at work. Imagine hearing the electricity of your own thoughts, the buzz of consciousness itself. That is what some people encounter in anechoic chambers. Perhaps your mind is humming right now, processing these words, creating thoughts and feelings. A quiet electrical activity that runs beneath everything you do. You are electric. You are always sparking, even in stillness. Most people find extreme silence disorienting after 45 minutes. Anechoic chambers are strange places. Most people can only stay inside for about 45 minutes before feeling uncomfortable or disoriented. The silence is simply too deep. Without ambient sound, the brain loses some of its sense of space. We use subtle echoes and reflections to orient ourselves. And when those disappear, the world feels strange. Some people experience mild hallucinations or a sense of floating. The brain is accustomed to processing sound constantly. When that input is removed entirely, it does not know what to do. It starts to create its own sounds, phantom noises to fill the void. Imagine a room so quiet that your brain cannot handle it. That is the anechoic chamber, a silence beyond what we evolved to experience. Perhaps there is wisdom in the ordinary sounds of life, the hum of the world, the ambient noise of existence. We are creatures of sound, not silence. We need some noise to feel at home. 94% of people hear sounds in silence, their own body. In a study by Heller and Bergman in 1953, 94% of participants reported hearing sounds when placed in a quiet environment. These were not hallucinations, but the sounds of their own bodies. Heartbeats, blood flow, breathing, joint movements, digestive sounds. The body is always making noise. We just never hear it because the world is louder. This study revealed something important. Silence, true external silence, reveals the sound within. We are never quiet. We are always sounding. Imagine discovering that you have been a musical instrument all along, always playing, just drowned out by the world. That is what silence shows us. Perhaps you might appreciate the sounds of your body as music, the rhythm of your heart, the breath of your lungs, the symphony of your existence. You are a song that never stops. Anechoic chambers absorb 99.99% of sound. The foam wedges that line anechoic chambers are designed to absorb almost all sound. 99.99% of sound waves that hit the walls are absorbed, leaving only a tiny fraction to reflect. This level of absorption creates a unique acoustic environment. There are no echoes, no reverberations, no reflections. Sound simply disappears into the walls. Engineers use these chambers to test products. How loud is a computer fan? How quiet is a car engine? In an anechoic chamber, you can measure the true sound of any object without interference. Imagine a room where sound goes to die, every wave absorbed, every vibration swallowed. That is the anechoic chamber. Perhaps you might think of the sounds that disappear into the world, the words spoken and absorbed, the noises made and gone. Sound is ephemeral. It exists for a moment and then is absorbed into silence. Even noise returns to quiet. The walls are covered in foam wedges that trap sound waves forever. The distinctive look of an anechoic chamber comes from the foam wedges that cover every surface. These wedges are precisely angled to trap sound waves, channeling them deeper into the foam where they are absorbed. Once a sound wave enters the foam, it bounces between the wedges, losing energy with each bounce until it dissipates entirely. The sound is not destroyed but converted into tiny amounts of heat. In a sense, the walls remember every sound that has ever been made in the chamber. All that energy, transformed into warmth, absorbed into the material. Imagine walls that eat sound, that swallow noise, and convert it into the faintest warmth. That is what the foam wedges do. Perhaps there is something poetic in this. The sounds we make do not truly disappear. They transform. They become heat, become energy in another form. Nothing is truly lost, not even sound. In extreme quiet, the brain creates phantom sounds to fill the void. When external sound is removed, the brain sometimes creates its own. People in anechoic chambers report hearing sounds that are not there. Phantom noises generated by a mind unused to silence. This is not a malfunction, but an adaptation. The brain expects sound. When deprived of it, manufactures its own. It is trying to make sense of a world without input. These phantom sounds can be subtle, like a faint ringing, or more pronounced, like voices or music. The brain is remarkably creative when left without external stimulation. Imagine your mind as a radio that keeps playing even when there is no station. Static, fragments of music, whispers of voices. That is what happens in extreme silence. Perhaps your brain is creating sounds right now, filling in gaps, adding texture to your experience. We are never simply receiving the world. We are always partly creating it. The boundary between hearing and imagining is thinner than we think. Silence is never truly silent for humans. We are always humming. Given everything we have learned, true silence may be impossible for human beings. We always bring our bodies with us, and our bodies always make sound. Even in the quietest room on earth, you would hear your heartbeat, your breathing, the flow of your blood. You might hear your nervous system, your joints, your digestion. You would hear yourself. Silence, for humans, is always relative. It is the absence of external sound, not the absence of all sound. We are too alive to be truly quiet. Imagine trying to be silent, but discovering that existence itself makes noise. That is the human condition. We sound, therefore we are. Perhaps this is comforting. You are never in complete silence because you are never completely alone. Your body is with you, humming its quiet song, keeping you company. You are your own background music. 2 minutes of silence can be more relaxing than peaceful music. Researchers studying relaxation discovered something surprising. In some experiments, periods of silence between music tracks were more relaxing than the music itself. Participants showed greater reductions in heart rate and blood pressure during silent intervals than during calming music. The absence of stimulus allowed the body to settle more deeply than any stimulus could. This suggests that silence is not just neutral but actively restorative. It gives the nervous system a chance to reset, to return to baseline, to rest. Imagine silence as a kind of medicine, something your body needs to heal and recover. That is what the research suggests. Perhaps you might give yourself some silence tonight. Not as an absence, but as a gift. A few moments of nothing, allowing your nervous system to settle. Silence heals. The research confirms what monks have always known. Silence promotes the growth of new brain cells in the hippocampus. A study published in 2013 found that 2 hours of silence per day led to the development of new cells in the hippocampus, the brain region associated with memory and emotion. This was unexpected. Researchers had been studying the effects of various sounds on mice brains when they discovered that silence was more powerful than any sound they tested. The hippocampus is one of the few brain regions where new neurons can grow throughout life. Silence, it seems, encourages this growth. Quiet may literally build the brain. Imagine silence as fertilizer for your mind, helping new connections grow, new memories form. That is what the research suggests. Perhaps your brain is growing right now. In the quiet moments of this night, new cells forming, new possibilities emerging, silence at work. You can grow your brain by doing nothing, by simply being quiet. A study found silence relieved tension better than any music tested. In a study comparing the effects of various stimuli on stress, researchers found that 2 minutes of silence produced greater relaxation than any music they tested, including music specifically composed to be relaxing. This was measured physiologically. Blood pressure, heart rate, muscle tension, all dropped more during silence than during music. The researchers speculated that silence allows the brain to stop processing and simply rest. Music, even relaxing music, requires attention and processing. Silence requires nothing. Imagine your brain finally being allowed to stop working, to put down its tasks, and simply be. That is what silence offers. Perhaps you might let your mind stop processing for a moment, not listening for anything, not waiting for anything, just resting in the quiet. Silence asks nothing of you. That is its gift. Silence reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, in your bloodstream. Cortisol is the hormone associated with stress. When you feel anxious or threatened, cortisol floods your bloodstream, preparing you to fight or flee. Chronic high cortisol is linked to numerous health problems. Studies have shown that exposure to silence reduces cortisol levels. The body interprets quiet as a sign of safety. When there is no noise, there is no threat, and the stress response can stand down. This is why silence feels good. It is not just psychological, but physiological. Your body relaxes because the chemistry of your blood changes. Imagine silence draining the stress from your bloodstream, filtering out the cortisol, leaving calm behind. That is what happens when you rest in quiet. Perhaps you might feel your stress response softening now. The quiet of night, the absence of demands, telling your body that you are safe. Silence speaks to your chemistry. It says you are safe to rest. Monks have known for millennia what science now confirms about stillness. Across cultures and centuries, contemplative traditions have valued silence. Monks in monasteries, yogis in caves, mystics in deserts, all have sought the quiet as a path to wisdom. They did not have scientific studies. They had direct experience. They knew that silence changed them. deepened them, opened doors in the mind that noise kept closed. Now, science is catching up. The research on silence confirms what contemplatives have always taught. Quiet is not emptiness, but fullness. Stillness is not passive, but active. Imagine the monks of ancient times, sitting in their cells, discovering the same truths that modern laboratories are measuring. Wisdom can arrive before explanation. Perhaps you are part of that ancient lineage tonight, resting in quiet, allowing stillness to work on you, following a path that others have walked for thousands of years. The monks would recognize this moment. They would nod in understanding. Forest bathing works partly because natural spaces are quieter. The Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, has been shown to reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve mood. Part of this effect comes from the quiet of natural spaces. Forests are not silent, but they are quieter than cities. The sounds they contain, birdsong, wind, water, are softer and more rhythmic than urban noise. The nervous system responds to this difference. Studies have measured cortisol levels before and after forest walks. They drop significantly. The combination of nature and quiet has a profound calming effect. Imagine walking through a forest. The soft sounds of leaves and birds replacing the harsh sounds of traffic and machines. Your body relaxes because the soundscape changes. Perhaps you might seek natural quiet when you can. Parks, gardens, wild places. The silence there is different from indoor silence. It is alive, but gently. Nature's quiet heals in ways we are only beginning to understand. Noise pollution increases stress, heart disease, and cognitive strain. The opposite of healing silence is harmful noise. Studies have linked chronic noise exposure to increased stress, higher rates of heart disease, impaired cognitive function, and disrupted sleep. Noise is not just annoying. It is a health risk. The body responds to loud sounds as threats, triggering stress responses that, when chronic, lead to disease. People living near airports or busy roads have higher rates of cardiovascular problems. Children in noisy schools learn less effectively. The effects are measurable and significant. Imagine noise as a slow poison, accumulating in the body, wearing down health and happiness. That is what the research shows. Perhaps you might appreciate the quiet you have tonight. Not everyone has access to silence. For many, noise is constant and unavoidable. Quiet is a privilege. Use it well. The World Health Organization calls noise a public health concern. The WHO has recognized noise pollution as a significant threat to public health. They estimate that in Europe alone, 1 million healthy life years are lost each year due to traffic noise. This is not exaggeration, but epidemiology. Researchers have tracked the health outcomes of populations exposed to different noise levels. The correlations are clear and consistent. Noise causes disease. Quiet promotes health. These are not just preferences, but medical facts. Imagine a world that took noise as seriously as air pollution or water contamination. We would redesign our cities, our transportation, our lives. Perhaps that world is coming. As we understand the health effects of noise, perhaps we will value quiet more. Perhaps we will build silence into our communities. Silence may become a public health priority. Many wisdom traditions consider silence a doorway to deeper knowing. Across the world's spiritual traditions, silence is valued as more than just absence of sound. It is seen as a doorway, a portal to deeper states of consciousness and understanding. In Buddhism, silent meditation is the path to enlightenment. In Christianity, contemplative silence opens the soul to God. In Hinduism, the practice of mauna, or spiritual silence, is considered powerful medicine for the mind. These traditions developed independently on different continents, yet they arrived at the same conclusion. Silence matters. Silence transforms. Imagine a doorway that only opens when you are quiet. A room beyond the room, accessible only in stillness. That is what the wisdom traditions describe. Perhaps you might approach the silence tonight as more than rest. Perhaps it is also inquiry. Perhaps something waits in the quiet that you can only find by being still. Silence is not just empty. It may be full of something you have not yet discovered. The Quakers call it expectant waiting, listening beyond sound. The religious society of Friends, known as Quakers, centers its worship on silence. Members sit together in quiet, waiting for something to arise, something beyond sound. They call this expectant waiting. It is not passive, but active. Not empty, but receptive. They are listening for what cannot be heard with the ears. Quaker meetings can last an hour or more in complete silence. Sometimes someone speaks, sharing a message that arose from the quiet. Sometimes no one speaks at all. Both are considered worship. Imagine sitting in a room full of people, all silent, all listening for something beyond sound. That is a Quaker meeting. Perhaps you might try expectant waiting tonight. Not waiting for sleep, but waiting for something else. Something that might arise from the stillness. The Quakers have been listening for centuries. Perhaps they have heard something true. In music, the rests are as important as the notes themselves. Composers know that music is not just sound, but also silence. The rests, the pauses, the spaces between notes are essential to the piece. Without them, music would be noise. The silence in music gives the sounds meaning. It provides contrast, creates rhythm, allows resolution. The notes mean something because of the silence that surrounds them. This is true in all temporal arts. In poetry, the pauses matter. In drama, the silences carry weight. In conversation, what is not said can speak loudly. Imagine music without rests, a continuous wall of sound without pause or breath. That would not be music. That would be exhaustion. Perhaps your life needs rests too. Pauses between the notes. Silences between the activities. The music of your days depends on the quiet spaces within them. Silence makes the music possible. John Cage's 4:33 invites us to hear the world in silence. In 1952, composer John Cage premiered a piece called 4:33. A performer sits at a piano for 4 minutes and 33 seconds without playing a note. The piece consists entirely of silence. But it is not really silence. The audience hears themselves. Their shuffling, their coughing, the ambient sounds of the space. The piece invites them to hear the music that is always present. Even when no one is playing, 4:33 is controversial. Some call it genius. Others call it fraud. but it makes a profound point. There is no such thing as silence. There is always sound, if we listen. Imagine being invited to a concert and asked to listen to nothing. What would you hear? Everything you usually ignore. Perhaps this night is your own 433. A piece composed of the sounds you usually overlook, the music of existence, playing constantly, waiting for you to notice. Listen, the world is already playing. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. There is an old saying that silence is not empty, but full of answers. Wisdom traditions and modern psychology agree. Sometimes the most important truths emerge not from thinking but from stillness. When we are quiet, the mind can process without interference. Solutions to problems arise unbidden. Insights emerge from the background. The unconscious mind, given space, often knows things the conscious mind has missed. This is why retreats and contemplative practices often involve extended silence. The quiet gives the deeper mind a chance to speak. Imagine a well that you can only draw from when you stop making noise. The water is always there, but your own splashing prevents you from reaching it. Perhaps you have questions that silence might answer. Perhaps tonight, if you rest quietly enough, something will arise. An insight, a peace, a knowing. Silence has things to tell you. You only need to listen. The space between thoughts is where insight quietly arises. Meditation teachers often speak of the gap between thoughts. That moment when one thought has ended and the next has not yet begun. A brief space of pure awareness, uncluttered by content. In that gap, they say, insight can arise, not as a thought, but as a direct knowing, a clarity that does not need words. Accessing this gap requires practice. The mind is accustomed to continuous thought, one idea chasing another. Learning to notice the spaces takes time and patience. Imagine a sky full of clouds, with brief glimpses of blue between them. Those glimpses are the gaps between thoughts. With practice, the blue becomes more visible. Perhaps you might notice the gaps tonight. Between one thought and the next, a tiny space. Between one breath and the next, a moment of stillness. In those gaps, something important may be waiting. Perhaps consciousness itself emerges from the quantum silence within. We do not know how consciousness arises from matter. It remains one of the great mysteries of science. But some theorists have speculated that quantum processes in the brain play a role. If this is true, then consciousness might be connected to the quantum vacuum, the sea of potential that underlies all matter. The silence within atoms might be related to the awareness within minds. This is speculation, not established science. But it is a beautiful thought. The quantum quiet that fills all space might be the same quiet from which your thoughts emerge. Imagine that consciousness itself is a kind of listening, the universe, through you, attending to itself, the silence becoming aware. Perhaps you are the quantum vacuum, dreaming that it is a person. Perhaps your awareness is the cosmos, noticing itself through your eyes. You are made of silence, and that silence has woken up. And so, we have arrived at the end of 100 facts about the physics of silence. Perhaps you are still awake, drifting in the quiet between these words. Perhaps you have already slipped into sleep, carried by the gentle current of facts and metaphors. Either way, You have traveled far tonight. You have learned that silence is not empty but full, that the vacuum hums with energy, that your atoms are vast cathedrals of space, that the cosmos whispers its ancient light to you constantly. You have learned that you are made of stellar silence, atoms forged in the quiet cores of dying stars, that you are mostly emptiness, a pattern of information floating in an ocean of nothing. You have learned that the universe is vast and mostly quiet. That light travels for billions of years through silence, that even the void between galaxies has a whisper of matter, a handful of atoms scattered through the dark. And you have learned that silence heals, that your body responds to quiet with calm, that your brain grows new cells in stillness, that the monks and the scientists agree. Silence matters. Perhaps you might let all of this settle now, like dust in still air, like snow on a windless night. Let the facts dissolve into feeling, the information into peace. The silence that surrounds you is the same silence between galaxies, the same silence within your atoms, the same silence that held the universe before the first light. You are not separate from this quiet. You are made of it. Perhaps you might notice your breath slowing, your jaw softening, your shoulders releasing, the gentle heaviness of rest spreading through your body. Perhaps you might notice the sounds of your own existence, your heartbeat, your breath, the quiet symphony of being alive. These sounds are not intrusions on silence. They are silence, expressing itself as you. The quantum vacuum is humming through your atoms. The cosmic microwave background is passing through your body. The ancient light of creation is surrounding you. You are held by silence. You are made of silence. You are silence that has learned to dream. And now, perhaps, it is time to dream. May the quantum whispers carry you gently. May the space within your atoms feel like home. May the cosmic quiet hold you through the night. Sleep well, dear friend. Sleep well, beautiful pattern of stardust. Sleep well, awareness that emerged from silence. The universe is resting now, and so are you. Good night.